strap yourself in for Keeping It Real with Jack and Rhonda.
This is Keeping It Real with Jack and Rhonda. How are you, Rhonda?
I am very good. Very good.
Very good.
How are you?
I'm bloody good.
Bloody good.
In the spirit of keeping it real, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm bloody good.
Right. Excellent. Well, this episode's about choosing your attitude.
Appetite. Appetite for attitude.
Choosing your attitude. And in Keeping It Real, you were sharing a little story before about you perhaps made a bad choice about the attitude.
No, I didn't. I ended up making a good choice, but God, I could feel myself getting angry. So I went
Don't you hate that when that happens?
I know, I do. And you know, I'm a coach and I'm trying to be this good person, you know, a good wife, a good mother, a role model, a good co-host on a podcast. And I could feel myself throwing all of that out the window and just wanting to go.
What happened?
Well, a few things happened. I'm not going to go into the specifics. That would be keeping it way too real. I had just spent.
Because they might be listening.
They may well be listening. I had just spent the most fabulous 24 hours with a great friend and did a lot of catching up. It was the most beautiful day. I was driving my car, which I love. I was coming along country roads. The sun was shining and it hasn't been sunny. Everything was great, yeah? Mm-hmm. And then within probably 15 minutes, 3 things happened. One was a family issue. Mm-hmm. The other was a work issue. Mm-hmm. And then there was a renovation issue.
Right.
So all 3 were problems.
Because you're doing some renovations.
I am doing,
here,
which you might be able to hear every now and again. Tap, tap, bang, bang. But it will be good when it's done, as you know. And by the way, that pavilion, you're going to want our podcast going from that pavilion and workshops. You and I are going to do some workshops from there. We're going to put on some really bloody great events next year in summer.
The podcast pavilion.
The PP. Anyway, I was getting crosser and crosser and I could feel my heart rate absolutely going crazy. Well, I could feel heat in my face and I actually pulled the car over. I could feel myself gripping the steering wheel because all these things are happening, phone calls. And so I pulled over, I took a deep, deep breath and I thought, right, one thing at a time. So I then went about calling and solving one issue, messaging to talk to somebody about the other issue and working my way through it. My point was my beautiful day could have been absolutely ruined, but I chose not to end it like that.
So you did choose your attitude
I did choose my attitude and I think I did choose it well. But at the time, I remember thinking, I could just scream. I'm so angry. And in the past, I probably would not have been, A, so self-reflective, B, not listening to the responses or more aware of the responses of my body, and I probably would have said and done some things I would have regretted.
I think if you can look back and go, I don't regret anything, then you've probably chosen your attitude.
That's a great way to self-check.
It's like it's sometimes when you go, why did I say that? Why did I do that? You've chosen your attitude. Yeah. It's just not a great attitude. Do you remember in the late 90s, nearly every corporate was doing this, those training programs called FISH?
Like the Seattle Fish Market?
Yeah. So there were training videos and there were still, the VHS tapes. I remember organising them as training for the leaders. So it was called FISH. I think they're still going on. I think people still do them.
I'd forgotten about those, Ralph.
Yeah, so they came out like mid like 97, 98.
Yeah, late 90s.
And it was a guy that when he went, and it was in Seattle, it was this fish market.
Yeah.
And he couldn't believe how much fun people were having. And I remember the video, like
people who were working in the
there, like
market.
they were throwing the fish around. They were, and this is a job where they're up at 3:00 in the morning,
handling fish,
and but you watch it, and at the end you go, oh, I would want to work there.
Wow!
Right? But what I remember about it is that there was like 4 philosophies, I guess, that this training took. And one was to play, to make work play and fun. Cool. One is to be there. So if you've got to be there, like again, be there. Be
present.
So you got to get up at, 3-4 o'clock in the morning. You got to be there. The other one was make their day. So that was all about, making their customers' day by having fun.
That's a good memory.
But the other one, the one I really remember, was choose your attitude.
Yes. Perfect.
And I remember, and that was like, that was something training program from 30 years ago, almost 30 years ago.
Was being rolled out to corporates.
So choose your attitude.
Yeah. Actually have fun.
Yeah.
Be positive. Be present.
Yeah.
Be playful.
Yeah.
Humour. So important. Yeah. So important.
Because we all have a choice. I mean, things go wrong. Like your example then.
Totally.
Things go wrong. You could have justifiably been totally
So angry.
pissed off
I was.
and let it ruin
my day.
the rest of your day. Yeah. You've got a choice in that moment. And what you chose to do was pull over, think about it, take a breath, probably take a few breaths and address it.
Totally right. And you're right. It is about the pause and the reflection and then making a choice, a deliberate choice. No, I'm not going to let this bugger up my day. I'm actually going to solve for it. But I also need to apply perspective here, right?
Yeah.
So my 3 major dramas and issues were not things I couldn't solve for. No one was getting killed. I mean, really, perspective here.
Yeah.
Yes, they were an inconvenience to me. Yes, they annoyed me.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, they didn't really cause any major issue to anyone else. It was about how I was receiving that, right?
It was similar to we spoke about in the episode that things that annoy us. Like you come back to, okay, well, if this is the worst thing that's going to happen today, and it could be bad,
Absolutely.
but you're doing house renovation, you're going to have delays and stuff that's going to happen.
Go over budget, tradies that don't turn up.
Tradies that are banging away as we speak, and there's a dog at my foot chewing on a bone. Like, I don't know.
This is farm life. We're keeping it real,
We're keeping it real. We could have a podcast studio, but no. We've got tradesmen and dogs chewing bones. Is that a real bone?
Yes, it is. It's a very old bone, but he loves it. And it amuses him, so let's keep him there. Hey, I heard a really great line. Life is 10% of what happens to you, but 90% of how you respond to it.
And it's so true. A friend of mine, she was in an airport recently, and this friend of mine had a bit of a bad, she's had a lot of grief. It was too much grief for any person to deal with. And one of them was her husband passed away about 18 months ago. And anyway, she said, she put this on Facebook, so clearly she's happy to talk about it, is that she was sitting at the airport and she got speaking to someone, as you do at an airport, and this woman said to her, you don't act like a widow. You have non-widow energy vibes.
Non-widow energy vibes.
And she sort of said, I don't know what that means. And everyone that knows her knows what it means, is because she's choosing how she shows up. And it's not as if she doesn't grieve and sad. I know she probably has really shitty days, but she knows that her attitude, she's got a choice and
absolutely
and how she's acting. But she did think it was funny, and I think it's probably not a great thing to say. Someone like, you don't act like a widow.
Well, the reason I'm laughing, I feel for your friend, is that there might be a few widows out there that are really happy. Not self-referencing at all. My mother-in-law wore fuchsia pink to her husband's funeral.
Oh, well, they say the two.
She said, I'm not wearing black. That's not who I am. And his time was up and he was old and time to go.
Time to go.
And it's a celebration of life. And I thought, go you.
Good on her. The 2 happiest people in the world are married men and single women.
Is that right?
That is right.
Is that fact?
That is fact. Married men and single women are the 2
there
most
you are.
happiest
Well, Keelan's
people.
not married and we're not single. So there we are. No one's happy here. Rubbish. We're very happy because we choose our attitude. Hey, have a guess what else we choose?
We choose. Are you going to say wine?
Yes. You do. I was wondering whether you're going to get that.
Of course we choose our wine. And the
wine we choose?
It's Wild Duck Creek Estate.
Why do we choose that wine?
Because it is good value for money. It's wine.
Beautiful wine.
Run by a family-owned business.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Regional Victoria.
Yeah.
The Anderson family, Liam Anderson's the winemaker and it's his family business. Their wine is actually really famous. Do you know that it's been served in the White House? Have I told you that before?
No, you have not.
It has been served in the White House, Wild Duck Creek Estate.
Wow.
I don't know too many Aussie winemakers that can claim that.
Do you know when and how?
It was some years ago, and I've got a feeling, I think the Andersons will tell me if this is right or not. I think President Clinton was in power.
Right.
So I love that non-widow sort of attitude. I thought that was quite good. What about attitudes at work? Well, I mean, we spend a lot of time at work. We get up and go to work, most of us 5 days a week. Some people even work longer than that and shift work and all those sort of things. It would be easy to go to work pissed off regularly because, life does serve you lemons sometimes.
And I think we've all worked with people like this. Perhaps we've even been that person where they come in a crappy mood.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe justifiably they've had a bad morning or whatever.
Remember Moody Judy?
Yes, I do
Just thought
remember
of her
Moody
then.
Judy from a previous episode.
She was
But
a doozy.
they're choosing to bring that into work.
Yeah.
And what that means is that brings everyone down.
Spot on.
Selfish.
Spot on. So, Miserable Mal. I haven't told you about Miserable Mal.
Was he related to
Moody Judy? No, well, I don't think so. I worked in Singapore years ago and I worked for IBM. And Miserable Mal was one of those highly, highly trained experts in technology. So he honestly was up there with, like, his name was mentioned all the time. And when things would go wrong, you'd get Mal in. But he had the worst attitude. He hated his life. He hated his work. He was always unhappy. He was unfriendly. He was rude. No one liked working with him. But because he was so good at what he did, he retained his job until there was a massive restructure. And he honestly was the most shocked. He got moved on.
And it's because of his attitude.
Entirely, they could have kept him because technically he was brilliant, but he had such an impact and influence on others. So that really affected the culture. And that was all about his attitude, because his technical skills, was brilliant. His how, he was a shocker. So you're exactly right. It has a real effect, a ripple effect.
It has this ripple effect. And just as you can have a really positive attitude, has a ripple effect.
That.
If you decide to bring your negative attitude into your workplace, or vice versa, you could have had a really crappy day at work and you then decide, do you bring it home and then impact your family?
Yeah.
Because you've had a terrible day. Yeah?
I've coached on that before, and my tip was don't drive in the driveway. This particular person drove to and from work, park just around the corner, take a deep breath, put on some awesome music, and change your attitude before you walk in that door, before those children and your partner bear the brunt of your attitude from a difficult day at work. Yeah. And this person did that. She did that a number of times, did it a couple of times a week, and she said it saved her.
And also too is like if you've had a crappy, let's just say it's a work colleague or your boss, which means you've had a crappy day at work, if you don't choose or change your attitude or choose it when you get home, you're now having a crappy night because of that.
And creating other people's crappy night.
Yeah, and that's giving that person a lot of power. It's like you screwed up my day. Now you're screwing up the family dinner we were having because
it's too much power. Hey, not long after we were married, if I got the shits with Richard, which was now and again, regularly, I'd sulk.
Right. So
I'd just not shut up. And of course I'm a talker and I talk a lot. Anyway, I'd sulk because I was so angry, and he would let me go.
He would love it?
Because I stopped talking and I realised it wasn't working. It was backfiring. He actually encouraged it. He didn't try and I'd be waiting for him to say, what's wrong? Or let's talk about this. And the bugger wouldn't. And that's when I realised, I think I better start speaking up.
I reckon he was thinking of other ways to piss you off.
Yes, I'd stay quiet.
Stop talking again.
Talk about keeping it real.
I know sometimes, you have and this happens with your friends or your partner. You have they do something that annoys you, you have a fight. And if you do sulk and if you get really annoyed at it, it just ends up ruining the day or the holiday or the dinner.
Yeah.
And I think as I've got older, I just sort of go, I know he didn't mean it that way.
It's not worth it. And
worth it.
Choose your hard, right? Or choose your battles.
Choose your battles.
It's not going to be this one. Hey, what about people that say, they go off their rocker, they bring everyone down, and then they go like 5 minutes later, oh, sorry about that, I was having a bad morning.
Yeah. So you know what that tells me? That tells me they're totally aware that they've acted inappropriately.
Clearly, if they're apologising for it.
Totally aware. But they're somehow justifying it.
So they're using an excuse.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
That's okay. It's because
which might mean I'm going to do it again.
Yes. So it's this thing, I'm sorry I snapped at you. I'm really tired. It was like, well, you knew you were really tired before you snapped. Or I'm sorry I acted like that. I've just had a really, really shitty day or morning. Now, that's going to happen. It's going to happen occasionally. But if you find yourself doing that all the time,
regularly,
justifying
it's not on.
Your attitude,
bad behaviour,
which is bad behaviour, because you've had a bad incident, that is not okay.
No.
So you're aware, but you're not you're making the choice.
Absolutely.
And you were justifying yourself. Now, again, We've all been
Done
there.
there,
We've all
yep.
done that.
Done
I'm
that,
not saying
yep.
never do it, but if that's a common thing.
Yeah, no. Self-check. Start self-checking.
Yeah, start
That's not on.
self-checking.
In fact, and others should feel free to say, hey, that happens regularly. You're apologising doesn't make it better.
Right.
Doesn't make it
Doesn't
right.
make it right.
How about controlling yourself? How about applying some self-regulation
Yeah.
and choosing your attitude?
Yeah. And
Feel free to
especially
say that.
if you're in a
Leadership role.
I was going to say especially in your leadership role, but
Any role.
anyone
Any
can
role.
bring the team
Totally
down.
right.
So we spoke before about giving people the power, like they've wrecked your day.
Yep.
Do you have it? That you had a great quote you said before the episode, like at any given moment you have the power to say that this is not how the story will end.
Spot on.
So it's like it's almost
you're in control.
changing what happens next.
Exactly right.
So are you going to let this destroy your dinner date, or are you going to let this destroy your night or your holiday,
relationship or whatever
Or you're
it
just
might
going to
be.
go, you know what, I'm choosing.
And that's exactly what I did yesterday in the car. I pulled
Yeah.
over, I looked at the sunshine, I looked at this car I'm driving, I've got the day to myself, I'm not going to let these three things
Yeah.
ruin this day. So I do have the power to alter
Yeah.
the story. So you're exactly right. You're exactly right.
I've got a great example of someone, like sometimes at work when you get you get in a job or a position and it's not what
you want,
expected.
or
It's
what
like
you expect, yeah.
This woman that I actually met at Harvard, but I don't think it was the Women in Power program.
Oh, it was
the one before.
another Harvard
Another
course you've
time.
done.
Anyway, her name is Rhonda, and she just has actually retired from the FBI. So she was a
so cool.
very senior person at the FBI.
So
She now coaches women in law
Negotiation.
enforcement.
Right.
But she tells this story that she was, training to be the FBI. Like imagine working for the FBI.
the FBI.
And like she's
What do
so
you do?
excited.
I'm in
And
the
we're- I'm the
FBI.
FBI, right? And so she got her assignment for the FBI, and you wonder about all the great jobs you could be. Her job was she was assigned to the telephone exchange. So this was a while ago. This would have been, I don't know, probably 40 years ago. So
So she thinks she's going into
She's
the
kind of like a
FBI,
secret service.
and she goes into the telephone exchange room.
yeah.
Because is that where you have to start, or this was just
This is her lot in life. And where you're getting a call and it's the old exchange, so you're then putting the person through to the right
connecting
person.
them. Oh my goodness, that's going back.
Anyway, she told me this story and she goes, I remember I was so devastated. I remember going home and telling her mum about it. And I think the advice her mum gave her was pretty much choose your attitude.
Yeah.
That's your job. So
You're in the
she
FBI.
decided to embrace it, and she decided to embrace the
Love that.
role. And I think she did it for a year or so, whatever. But then she told the story about one night, so doing night shift, and a call came through to the White House, and it was the president of the
And
time.
she was actually in.
She was there. I think it was Reagan. I think it was Ronald Reagan.
Oh
and so
my
she got to, and she said it was night shift, so there wasn't a lot, and that the president actually spoke to her for a little bit, and then she put the president through.
So other people could have been working in the FBI all their lives and never have spoken to the president of the United States. That's
so
awesome.
because she now actually coaches people on that, she uses that story to say,
great one.
Whatever, you're going to have those switchboard moments when you've been given an opportunity. You go, this is not me.
No.
This is, but how you make the most.
Lean
of
into it.
Yeah.
Embrace
And again,
it. Choose your attitude.
This is not choose your attitude.
Love it. All right, tips and techniques. Quickly, what are they?
I think the one is be aware.
Yeah.
So be aware, I think of, and that's what we spoke about before. If you find yourself always saying, I'm sorry I acted like that. I just there's a lot on my mind, or I'm sorry I acted like that. I've had a shitty moment. And the reality is the person you're speaking to, they could be having a lot
Way
worse than you,
Way
but
worse.
they've chosen their attitude.
Correct.
And you haven't. So just if
Be
you
aware
find
of it.
yourself, not saying, I did that once, but if you find yourself constantly apologizing for your behavior, justification is not
an excuse.
So that's one
I like
way.
it. Body responses. So I could feel my heart palpitating. I could feel myself getting hot. And so I chose to pull over and pause and take a deep breath and actually just regulate.
Yeah.
So that's a great tip, yeah? So don't send the email right in the heat of the moment. Don't pick up the phone for a conversation or text. Gosh, the times that you will regret that. Don't say something that you will regret verbally to somebody physically. Walk away, step away, just give it some time because it's never as bad later. It really isn't.
No.
It seemed everything was going wrong yesterday, but actually it all worked out.
Yeah.
Had a great night last night.
There's a couple of things you just said then. It's a physical thing. So you can actually physically, your
That's
heart
the feedback.
races.
Absolutely.
You can physically feel yourself getting angry, like tightening of the fist, getting. So you know this is happening. It's a physical reaction.
It is.
So one of the suggestions is do a physical, like, when people go, just stop, walk around the block, get out, fresh air.
Go and move.
Go
Create some energy.
Go for a run, do something, and you'll come back. It will never be as bad as what
That's
it was.
a good one.
And if the amount of times I have written an email and left it overnight
Yeah, drafts.
and just deleted.
Yeah. But you just need to write it.
I just
right?
need to
You just
write
need
it.
to say it.
Just
and
need to write it.
Yeah.
So, write an email
Yeah. Say
and
it,
then
rant over,
delete.
done.
Delete.
The great thing about choosing your attitude and choosing positivity and optimism and self-regulating and managing yourself is the more you do it, have you guess what?
The more you get better at it.
The more you get better at it.
And I think it's
better
not
it
even
is.
better at it. It just becomes part of how
Habitual.
you respond.
That's who you
Right?
are.
It was like, I'm just going to, I'll just let that go.
Yep. So choose your attitude and choose your wine. Wild Duck Creek Estate. You can buy some from our wonderful website. What is our password, our code?
Keepers.
That's for a
lowercase.
great offer. Lowercase keepers for a case of Wild Duck Creek Estate.
I was speaking to Liam, who runs Wild Duck Creek Estate, and when we talked about our sponsorship, he said, my greatest fear was that I didn't want this to sound like an ad. And he goes, I'm so glad you guys weave it into the conversation. I go, well, it was pretty easy because we were weaving wine into the conversation all the time anyway. So
and it was their wine I was drinking most of anyway.
Absolutely.
So, good.
So, keepers, hope you've enjoyed this one. When something goes wrong or not going to plan, you have the power to choose your attitude. And so I hope that stays with you the next time that happens and you think of us.
I'm sure they will. And please share the podcast if you love this and you know somebody who could do with some advice around attitude. Share it and also rate us. Give us a 5-star rating.
Because what else you could choose? You could choose to give us a rating or not.
Choose many things.
Because this is our 30th episode.
What? 30 potties already?
30 potties already. And we are, and I kid you not, our publisher has told us this, and if you look at some podcasts, we have got over 100 reviews.
Our producers also said that.
Oh, yeah, our producer, not our publisher. 5 stars.
Author.
So,
yeah.
Once you get over 100 reviews, there's chances are people are going to not give you a 5-star.
I see podcasts
you know what? I think
with no
I think
reviews.
there's one person has given us a 4-star.
They're not a keeper.
No, they're dead.
They're a keeper with a C. Okay, keepers, wishing you a wonderful week ahead. Happy Monday to you. Choose your attitude. This is Jack and Raoul saying bye.
You've been listening to another episode of Keeping It Real with Jack and Raoul. If you like what you've heard, don't forget to tell others about it and give a 5-star review. They may seem confident, but they really are sensitive 5-star needy souls. Yeah, right. Keeping It Real, created by Jack Phillips and Gabriel Dolan. Produced by Keelan Ferrari Brown. And this really real voiceover, spoken by Richard Phillips.